So, hello and welcome along to Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. And I'm super excited because my guest, she's one of the newer stars of EastEnders, but she's done so much as well, which we will talk about. The fantastic Alice Haig. How are you, Alice?
I'm very well, thank you.
Now, I mean, it's like I said, you've had such an amazing career, and I mean, for you, where did the love of performing and acting come from? Can you kind of remember when you first became interested?
Yeah, I can. I grew up in a household of actors because my dad's an actor and my mum was an actor, and so for me it was like almost the most normal job in the world. So all the way through up until I was about 11, I used to I wanted to be a social worker, and because I thought that sounded quite glamorous. And like I'd have like files and things because I'd never seen that. And then when I was 11, I did the end of like year 6 play or whatever. And almost immediately, I was like, oh, everyone kept saying I was working really hard and wasn't getting bored. And I realized that, like, oh, this would be an amazing job because I'm having fun, but everyone's saying I'm working hard. So I was like, oh, that sounds like that might be a good job for me. And then I didn't really look back after that.
I mean, quite a lot of the time, you find that with actors in real life, they're actually quite introverted and a bit shy. Were you a sort of a shy child, or
I'm trying to think. I don't think I was a shy child particularly, but I wasn't. I wasn't very. I didn't want to show off in that way. Like I wouldn't be doing like dance routines, but I must admit, I wasn't shy, and I used to love putting on plays. So me and my sister, where we used to live, the flat that my parents lived in had 2 floors. It was like a maisonette, and the bottom floor. It has like a sort of weird stage thing in the bedrooms. I don't know why. It was just like built like that. So we used to put curtains up, like do massive shows and puppet shows and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I did. I always did like performing, to be fair. Yeah.
and I mean, obviously, over the period of your career, you've got to travel around and perform on some
Mm,
amazing stages. I mean,
yeah.
that must be a joy to, being a part of an actor, getting to travel, getting to see different parts of, the country we live in. And have you got a favorite venue that you have performed at?
Oh wow. Okay, such a good question. I've got different places for different reasons. I did a play called Curse of the Starving Class, and it was an American Sam Shepard play, and we had a real life lamb in it, and somebody weed on the stage, and it was an amazing play, and that was on in Edinburgh at the Royal Lyceum, and I loved the part. I loved the play. It was early on in my career, and the theatre's gorgeous. The director was amazing. So just the whole experience was great, and obviously Edinburgh is a lovely place to be. So that was fantastic. I spent a lot of time in Leeds, which I loved. And then sort of glamorousy ones, I did a play that went to New York and Paris, which was like, what? We got put up in Paris in the middle of the Seine on the Ile Saint Louis, and we had like incredible Parisian flats, and I was having like coffee and croissants in the morning, and that was like I felt like I was living someone else's life that time.
I mean, I say live theatre is such an amazing experience, and
Mm,
I do feel that some people think it's very much a kind of a London thing, but it really isn't. And there are beautiful theatres all over the
oh
country.
my,
I mean, you must love getting out and seeing people like we said all over the country, and
yeah.
not just London. That must be nice.
So I absolutely love it. And actually, I did a tour of an Agatha Christie show, and it was 6 months, and I was quite nervous about it because it's the longest theatre job I'd done, and it was such a good experience because I got to see all these like Norwich and Salisbury, and I mean everywhere actually. There would be parts of the place that you would go, God, that's such a lovely place to be, and or you'd be by the beach, or just amazing. Actually, I did a play in Aberystwyth once. That was obviously it's such a beautiful place, but it was like the worst weather to ever hit Aberystwyth in about like 40 years or something. And these waves were coming over the side of the like promenade thing, crashing. And then when we got to the theatre, we had an audience of 3 people. So that felt like we wanted to get back out in the waves, I think, after that.
Now, obviously, on top of the theatre, you've obviously done a lot of TV and film, and you
Mm.
must love the fact that you can kind of go between the two. You can, because I think most actors will have one or the other that's a favourite. I mean,
Yeah.
do you have a favourite, or do you love the variety?
Do you know, it's really changing. I think when I was a younger actor and did more theatre, I really was frightened of TV. I was a bit scared. I felt like you had to do something different when you were doing TV, when actually it's much more similar. I mean, there are obviously techniques and skills that you need for each that are different, but in the sense, the same thing is true. You want to be truthful and you want to have intention. And if you're truthful, people will buy it, whether it's a large performance on the stage or a small performance on TV. But it's really coincided with having my kids that TV's become such an amazing way to work, because I see them, and I particularly with EastEnders, because I get the weekends and the evenings mostly with them. So whereas with theatre, they go to school, you're at home, and then before they get back you've left, and then you go do the show, and then you come back, they're in bed, so you don't see them. So I haven't actually done any theatre since my kids have been born. Hopefully when they get a bit older I'll be able to go back to it. I'd love to.
I was going to say, because obviously with live theatre, that's a lot of evenings and weekends and stuff, which is kind of the complete opposite. Um,
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we will talk a bit about EastEnders, but I wanted to first of all mention Rain Dogs, which is obviously
Oh
a
yeah.
great show that you did for the BBC. An
Yeah.
amazing cast as well. I mean, the likes of
Mm.
Daisy May Cooper. You had Adrian Edmondson.
Mm.
So many amazing people. What was that like to be a part of? And for anyone who hasn't seen it, kind of just give us a little outline of the storyline.
It's an amazing bit of TV, actually. I really recommend it because it's so unusual. The tone of it is very strange. And I think for some people it was too much and they found it quite sort of disturbing. But it's a story about poverty and people struggling, but it's done with a tone of kind of it's quite irreverent. It's not trying to be holier than thou or these poor people. It's much more funny than that. Obviously Daisy May Cooper's hilarious, and it was sort of almost fantastical as well. It didn't feel quite like it was in real life. It was amazing to be a part of. I was only on the filming set for a day, and my scene was with Daisy, so we had a great time doing that. But so I don't know much about how the process was for everybody else, but I loved watching it, and I really hope. I don't know if there's a second series, but I hope there will be, because it felt like it left it with lots of room. Yeah, it was really good. I
I
loved
mean,
it.
when shows like that come along, you must. I mean,
Mm.
was it kind of an audition process, or was it offered to you? How did that work?
Yeah, it was an audition. Yeah, it was a casting director that I've worked with a few times. But yeah, you send in a tape, and I think for that one, I sent in the tape, and then I had to go in for a second audition in person where they can meet you, and a just in case audition. I always think they are a bit. Just in case you arrive and they think, oh no.
Now, another project you've worked on more recently was True Spirit, and this is I believe it's an Australian project. I mean, I've not seen it yet, but tell us a bit about that because that sounds
It's
interesting.
it's actually not me.
Is it
So
not?
is it? Yeah, no. I was actually talking to my agent about this just the other day. So there's an actress, an Australian actress who was called Alice Haig, and then she changed her name because I'd had the name first. So she changed her name to Alice Tate, but quite a lot of her credits are still on my sort of IMDb and things. So yeah, so
I
so
mean,
I'm not in it. I don't know what True Spirit's like. I'm
no.
sure it's
I'm
brilliant.
sure we'll have to watch it and have a look. But would you ever
Yeah,
love to go and sort of work abroad, places like Australia or America?
yeah, totally. The best thing about the job is that you get to go to places that you might never normally go. I did a tour in America, and it wasn't like your New Yorks and your LAs. It was places like Boise, and there was a small place in Indiana, and really just amazing places. And you saw the real America, like where people live, and have that, not like it was in a film kind of thing. And it was amazing. We did a show in Texas, and midway through the show, they had to stop because a snake, like a venomous snake, had arrived in the auditorium and was like scuttering around the seats. So they had to evacuate everyone. So things like that's just cool.
Just
It's
adds some
fun.
drama. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
it's not every day you get a snake in the theatre. Um,
No.
Now, obviously, EastEnders came along for you quite
Mm,
recently, and I mean, such a big show to be a part of. Were you a fan
yeah.
before joining, and how did that come about for you?
Yeah, I was. Well, I was born in February 1985, so I'm basically exactly the same age as EastEnders. So my mum remembers breastfeeding me in front of the first episode, like, so that feels pretty cool. And then from when I was a very young age, I watched it always, every episode. And then when I had kids, I sort of dropped off because that is exactly their bedtime. So I'm never around to watch it. So when I got this audition, I watched a few episodes. I was like, oh my God, I'm already hooked back in, because you can just leave it and then come back and be completely up to date within a week. And then once I got offered the job, then it was like, yes, now for my work, I have to watch it. So then it meant that I had the excuse to watch it all the time, as opposed to, like, when you feel like you should be doing a chore. Now I call it work, but really I just love watching it.
And obviously, Vicky was a character that, we all know Vicky from, previous times and has
Mm,
been played by a few people before. Does
yeah.
that add a bit of extra pressure for you, or are you kind of more or less make it your own, do what you want with it? How does that
Yeah.
work?
It's interesting, isn't it? Well, firstly, I didn't know I was playing Vicky until the day before I started. So it was like a bit of a bonkers moment, because in the audition, it's all code names. You don't know who you're playing. Obviously, it's got the mood of the person, but you're not sure who you're going to be playing. And then I found out who it was. And at the beginning, I think I was a little bit like, oh, I was a bit alarmed. I thought, oh, do I have to do certain things? Will I have to sound like the person? And they were like, absolutely not. You do what you do and what you did and what you read the part as. And so I knew I didn't have to do that. And actually, the more I looked into it, the more I was like, you can't really be somebody else's energy or have somebody else's atmosphere, or just, you are who you are when you walk on set or when you walk on stage, so you can't pretend to be someone else. It's much better to just go with the information you've got. So I was more interested in looking at, like, who her parents were, so feeding in from, like, what Michelle's energy was like and what Den was like, and then that informed much more about how I was going to play it than really trying to copy Scarlett, who was brilliant and completely different to me and not like me at all. So it would have been impossible to do that, I think.
I mean, the other
Yeah.
thing was, I know that the last time we saw Vicky, she did have quite an American accent. So, are you
Oh
glad
yeah.
that they didn't bring that in, or?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was. In fact, I think I remember them saying that, because she had an American accent, but then she did. Then they decided not to have it, so she sort of lost it as it went along, sort of let it go. And I think from that moment on, unless somebody had, like, was supposed to be from somewhere else, they sort of ditched the idea of accents on the whole, because it's EastEnders, isn't it? You want it to be East End, I think. Yeah.
I mean, getting to join the show at the same time as Alex Walkinshaw, he's appeared on this show in the past, and he's a true
Yeah.
gent.
Yeah.
That must have been quite nice. And I mean, how was that sort of getting to know each other?
Yeah, it was great. Do you know, it was such a nice feeling when I first met him, because I was like, oh, brilliant, you're going to know your way around. Because obviously he's been at Elstree, BBC Elstree, filming other things millions of times. And that's one of the worst bits about starting a new job, isn't it? You don't know where to get your water, you don't know where the loos are, and I knew he would know where everything was. So that was good. And then also he knew everybody, the crew, people working on the office. I mean, just everyone. So that was quite nice as well, because I was like his sort of sad mate that didn't know anyone that he could introduce to everyone. So that was nice. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously getting to work quite closely with some icons as well. I mean, the
Yeah.
likes of Gillian Tailforth, Letitia
Mm,
Dean, Adam
yeah.
Woodyatt. Was that kind of a bit of a pinch me moment for you? Because
Yeah.
obviously everyone knows them. They are, known everywhere. Even if you're not an EastEnders fan, you know who they are. Steve McFadden,
Totally.
even. What
Yeah.
was that like? Kind of a stepping foot on the square for the first time and meeting these icons.
Totally bizarre. It was honestly, but it still is, to be honest. I'm still pinch me all the time, even when I'm just on my way to work on the train. I'm like, I cannot believe I'm going to work on EastEnders. It's like heaven. I genuinely feel like I've got my dream job. And the first scene I had was with Alex, but also Adam, who plays Ian. And so, I mean, it was bizarre. We were standing outside the cafe on the market, on the front lot markets, the square, basically. And there was Ian Beale just chatting to me as a human being, bizarre. And then we did the scene, and then it's unbelievably quick. The filming is quick. So like we'd done it and then it was done. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? I literally just woke up and I'm in EastEnders. It's so weird. It's honestly weird.
And I mean, as well as that, you've also come in at a really good time. Obviously, just had the 40th anniversary.
Mm,
The show is going from strength to strength. We know that we've sort of seen the return of Michelle Ryan, who's obviously back as
mm,
Zoe. We know that Jake Wood's coming back as Max. It's a really
mm.
big time, and you must be loving the fact that you're in it at this moment, if that makes sense.
Totally, totally. I feel like I've joined at such a great time. We've also had sort of behind the scenes, has been lots of really exciting building work and things, so that we've got these new dressing rooms, and there's actually a really, really great canteen which they haven't had for years and years and years. So you can buy really nice food for your lunch. So all that stuff as well, like all the sort of day-to-day stuff about working there is fantastic. But yeah, it feels really exciting. And Ben, the new exec producer, is lovely and is doing a really cool job. I mean, every decision he's made so far, I think, has been brilliant. So I'm excited.
And you can always tell when an exec is actually a fan of the show because
Mm,
what they do with the show, the fans just sit there and go, "Well, of course, why wouldn't they have done that?"
mm,
So I am super excited for what is in store, and we'll talk about a few of your storylines in a minute.
mm,
But I mean, for yourself, when you're going from other TV shows where obviously it's a lot slower the filming process, let's say
mm.
soap operas are a very different beast, we'll call them,
Yeah.
because you're filming like 6 episodes a week. So how are
Mm.
you finding that kind of change in filming?
It is. It's really, really quick. And if you're busy, it can be overwhelming, because you start a block of episodes, and on the Wednesday you receive the scripts for the next block, and then by the end of that week you're already thinking about the script for the block after that. So it can get quite a lot all at all in one go. But it's so exciting, and I think like it was really interesting watching the different ways people work. Some people learn very quickly, learn their lines very quickly, come on, do it, and are able to kind of, then that just leaves their brain, then they go on to the next thing. Other people do lots of work prior. I get a bit of the heebie-jeebies if I'm not solid on the lines. I quite like to have really I like doing them prior to the day, or the few days before. I like doing them the week before if I possibly can, so that then by the time it gets there, I feel really comfortable with them. But yeah, it's a totally different way of filming. But what's great is that you can, in one week, you can do something that you might not do in a whole film. You do in one week. It's a fantastic experience. You can go from being excited getting married or something to then you're sobbing and you've been stabbed, or whatever the storyline would be that week. It's fab.
Now, I mean, some of the storylines you've got to handle recently, and some quite, sort of tough and important
Mm.
stories to tell. I mean, obviously, we've seen young Joel and his kind of sort of struggles to appreciate women, and his sort of disrespect for women, which is you don't really see much of that in youngsters on TV, which I think is a great story to cover. I mean,
Mm.
what was your kind of thoughts when you were told about the storyline and kind of where it was going to go?
Yeah, well, similarly to when I said I didn't know who I was playing, we didn't know really the storyline until, especially me, because the scenes I'd auditioned with were scenes that would eventually be with Sharon, whereas I guess Alex and Max had auditioned with scenes that were part of that storyline. Um, so I really didn't know. Um, and as soon as I heard about it, I was like, it's going to be dark. And it gets very dark, but it's so important because it's a real issue. And I've since the story is even it's only sort of a bit way through at the moment on what we've seen on screen. People have said to me over and over, like, oh, my cousin's really struggling with this, or my husband was doing some teaching and there was some people who were struggling with this very same thing. So I think like it's really important story to tell. There's a lot of misinformation online, and if you're in a vulnerable place as a young person, you can easily get sucked into the rhetoric of it, which is aggressive and not nice. So it's very important, I think.
I mean, where do you kind of go to start, like, kind of doing your research? Because I imagine it's quite a hard thing to kind of research unless you've
Mm.
got help.
Yeah, I think well we had lots of discussions with the story, the writers and things, and then also a friend of mine works for a charity, and she has lots of really good information about it. But really, the sort of interesting thing about the story is that Ross and Vicky don't know how to deal with it and don't understand it. So in a sense that coming at it with more innocence is actually better because we don't really know what to do as the characters. So watching, that's what's interesting about the drama, I guess, is watching the ways that parents can struggle and flail and not really understand what's going on with their kid.
I mean, we've also been seeing kind of in Vicky's kind of time on since you've been back, she's
Mm.
had a bit of a, I'm not going to say an evil side, but she's had a bit of a kind of a bad side that would you
Yeah,
would you like to see her become a bit more of a villain going forward?
yeah. I don't know. It's very difficult to know what I want to play great stories. So if the story was that she, for whatever psychological reason, started to go really to the dark side, then I would be well up for it. Um, I feel at the moment what she is incredibly loyal, and she's a bit like a Rottweiler. So if something crosses her, she just goes. She's like she hasn't got great regulation, self-regulation when it comes to when she's feeling angry or wronged, particularly if it's somebody she loves. So I think that's where her sort of darker sides come from so far, but you never know. And that's the other thing with soap that's so brilliant is that each week you get the scripts and really you don't know it. Obviously you can have discussions and say, I'm not sure about this, why would she be doing this, or what, and so you have those kind of discussions, but actually it's really fun. People don't do what you expect them in real life. They do. People behave depending on what's happened in their life in bizarre ways and different ways, and they surprise you. And that's what's good about a soap, because you get the same character going through many different things.
Now, one of the questions I love to ask is if
Yeah.
you, Alice, was to meet Vicky,
Oh
do
yeah.
you think you'd be friends? Could you imagine getting on with her?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think we would get on. I think she's quite funny. I find her sort of inability to not be involved hilarious, and every time I get the scripts I'm like, why is she wading into that situation? She can't help herself, so I really like that. I like her loyalty, and there's been a few scripts recently where she's had some good, like where I thought you're quite funny as well. So hopefully that will be a little tone that will develop. Yeah, no, I think we would get on. We'd get on great.
Now, one of the other projects that you have worked on is some Doctor Who audiobooks.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, that must be a completely different experience, but also
Mhm.
to be a part of the Doctor Who universe must be
Yeah,
quite exciting. So, what was that
so cool.
like?
Brilliant. Loved it. And it's one of the best days in it. It's not the most well paid job in the world, and you would never not want to do it because the scripts are fantastic. The quality of the product is brilliant. The actors are brilliant, and there is an amazing man who works in the studio. He's like a really top sound. I think he's the sound engineer or whatever. Anyway, he while you're doing the recording, I don't know how he does it. He makes a 3-course meal that you, when you come out at your lunch hour, it's all set out and it is absolutely delicious, like a professional restaurant. It's amazing. So yes, and if anyone, any actors out there who want to do a big finished productions thing, it is brilliant. Do it.
I mean, if it ever came about the chance to actually be in the series as
Yeah,
companion or maybe the Doctor, is
yeah.
that something you would consider?
Of course, it would be amazing. Yeah, of course. Yeah, give me a call.
Now, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. But before we go, is there any messages? Because obviously the NHS, such an amazing
Yeah.
institution. Any messages you'd like to give either to the amazing staff who work tirelessly,
Mm.
and also to the patients who are listening, maybe not having the best time at the moment? What would you like to say to them?
You know what? I feel very, very connected to the NHS, particularly at the moment. But well, obviously, I've had my 2 children. My youngest was over 2 months early, so was in hospital for a long time, and the NICU nurses were unbelievable. My sister is a paediatric nurse, so I see day to day how hard she works and how difficult the job is, but how amazing her and her colleagues are. So I have infinite respect for that. And then also, someone very close to me was very ill at the beginning of this year. And had to have multiple brain surgeries, and he was looked after in a way that I'll never be able to repay. So thank you, thank you, thank you to all the people who work in the NHS, and that includes everybody doing all the cleaning and all the things that make it run and work, all the cooks. And then for the patients, I'm sorry you're in there, and here's to getting out as soon as possible. Yeah,
And I
what
mean,
an amazing country we live in to have this thing for that where we can access the help we need.
people can, of course, while they're recovering, can keep watching EastEnders because it is
Yeah,
so good at the moment.
it really is. I totally agreed, and I'm not saying it because I'm in it. Like I particularly like watching episodes that I'm not in because then I can really enjoy it.
I mean, just talking about that, because I know some actors don't like watching themselves. Do you
Mm.
like watching yourself?
I like would be a strong word. I do watch myself because I really enjoy watching EastEnders, but also because it's quite good learning. You learn a lot, and also it's quite good getting used to it. So the first few episodes I found quite hard to watch, and now as it's gone on, I've basically been less vain. I think that's what it is. I think when you first start watching, you're like, oh my god, I don't look like that. I can't look like that. No, no, no. And then you just get used to it, and you're like, okay, that is what I look like. Fine. Then you're all right. Yeah.
Now, as I say, people keep watching. It's obviously EastEnders drops on BBC iPlayer Monday to Thursday at 6
Yeah.
a.m. and then is
Mm-hmm.
on Monday to Thursday at 7:30 on BBC
Mm-hmm.
One.
Yeah.
What could you not love about that?
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly.
Alice, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for giving up your time. Of course, keep safe,
Such
and
a
you are welcome
pleasure.
back anytime.
Thank you. Thanks.